Ja, da ønsker jeg god kveld til denne norske offentlige undervisningen fra Keshe Foundation, Spaceship Institute, onsdag den 3. mai 2017. I dag skal vi gå gjennom litt medisinske ting. Først så blir det filmfremvisning med norsk autotekst. Fra kreftløsning i bytte for fred, dag 2. Cirka en time, litt over en time. Og så har vi noen andre biter med litt medisinsk undervisning som vi tar fortløpende, men det er mulighet for å åpne mikrofonen og stille spørsmål selvfølgelig.
The Keshe Foundation is extending an invitation to medical doctors of any practice and specialty to apply to the Foundation's private weekly medical teaching workshop. This includes medical doctors, dentists, and veterinarians. Scientists of the Keshe Foundation developed different types of plasma therapies and cures that utilize advanced, non-invasive plasma technology. The weekly private medical teaching workshop educates doctors to the plasma science behind the therapies, along with the functionality and operation of revolutionary plasma medical devices. The goal of the private teachings is to add plasma health knowledge to the profound knowledge of medical doctors. The weekly class is broadcast live over the internet through a secure private channel every Wednesday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central European Time. Presently, the class is only offered in English. However, you are free to bring a translator to the class. If you can't participate in the live broadcast, you can watch them later at your convenience through a private internet portal. Every patient's case that is discussed in the workshop will be kept anonymous and private. This includes catalogued findings and data gained from the analysis of the patient's health issues. Any medical doctor in the world who wants to participate can do so by sending an email to doctors@spaceshipinstitute.org. In your email, please state your willingness to participate in the medical teaching workshop. If you're planning on bringing a translator to the workshop, please state this in your email as well. After we receive your email, we will contact you with the instructions on how to apply to the workshop. As a part of the application process, applicants who apply, including any translators brought into the workshop, will be required to sign the Keshe Foundation's World Peace Treaty, which can be found at the following web address. All applicants will be required to provide proof of their education and ability to practice medicine, and will also be required to pass an extensive security background check before they are granted access to the teaching workshop. Healthful plasma technology is here, now, the use of which is increasing exponentially on a day-to-day basis on every continent. We encourage you to come and learn about this revolutionary technology. Apply today.
Ja, det var kort intro i dag da. Hvordan var lyden?
Den var fin.
Ok, veldig bra. Ja, men da starter vi bare, så vi kommer igjen undervei. Det er superinteressant, synes jeg da.
wherever and wherever you listen to these teachings. We are back in Valletta today, and as part of the teachings and development of the technology, as we learn more, we share more. And about 10 days ago, we shared the knowledge of the science of the plasma technology in application with the health. And in that process, we seen some of the research papers which was shown as submitted through the work with Tokyo. And in that process, we have managed to expand the knowledge. In the teachings of Tuesday last week, when we started the original blueprint, we had a number of scientists, research centers, and doctors around the world which were online. We saw immediate response back from what we call the Isfahan Medical University Research Center of the Iranian scientists. A large number of scientists were online listening to the teaching. And follow up to that, we have offered to teach directly into the Isfahan Medical Research Center scientists and doctors and throughout Iran. It's the first time we do such open collaboration with the Iranian scientists. We respect them. We value their participation. As you know, the space technology in a spaceship program, some 8-9 years ago, started in Iran. The teachings will be totally in Farsi, as much as I can carry through, although I've left some 40 years ago Iran. And in that process, it will be translated into English for the others. The teaching will be very in-depth, and we take it further, and we thank all the scientists in Isfahan Research Medical Center and the other scientists in Iran who joined us with this program. We try to expand the research more into cancer and other application of the technology. At the same time, there is a further development with the scientists in universities and an organization in Italy, which in due course we will explain. This is total, pure, direct research, and all the data will be shared. For this, in the medical section, Giovanni will explain to the doctors, because they have to have an overview of what's happening in the, what we call, the development of the medical application of the technology as a full research. But that's to do totally with the medical side. And Giovanni is the person between the Italian research and the medical team. The reason for this blueprint is very simple. Last time we shown and we delivered a large number of data and pictures, and there has been a lot of questions, a lot of need for explanation for the common man to understand, and even for doctors, what happened, what was thought, what was understood, and how they can apply it. The application of the technology in a form of the GANs and the application of the plasma was the reason for the release of the papers last week. These papers are getting drawn up in a PDF form, and it will be on the website. We got to understand that in the process of the explanation by scientists from Tokyo, it was very simply explained. This is a system for people to produce materials that can help with cancer. Some of the process is very complicated. It's actually purification and nano-sizing the material, the strength and the dimensions which is needed for the process which was used for the animal test. As we said, it's for the research centers and the governments, as you've seen, like with the Iranian Research Center, that they start producing these materials. We released this technology as a medical application for medical world, for the scientific world. A lot of you are trying to copy. If you can do help, that's dependent entirely on you. but all these has to be understood before you do exactly what you're supposed to as a research center. They explained to us how they made the GANs, which is slightly different than what we do because they see different rates. They showed us how they use the centrifuge as a specific way and then cleaning up and nanosizing. This was all part of the papers which were submitted. It's not a direct making GANs and using it. At the same time, it has to be understood that a number of research people start following the process. And they are developing it, they're testing it. We expect some results in it took us 3 months. Next 2 to 3 months, where the doctors will start referring back to. Some individuals, out of the situation they are in, due to cancer or whatever, are testing these things themselves, but in their way. These are entirely up to you, and we don't encourage it. But as we said, the Keshe Foundation has been there open for people to do what they like. We share the knowledge. How you use the knowledge, it depends entirely on you how you do it. In process of how this GANs works, there is a very clear explanation. A specific size nanomaterials are separated in this process. That's why we use centrifuge. And then a specific nano making has been used. That's another use of it. Then they have cleaned and washed in a specific way that is applicable. What is done by the scientist is estimated 1 gram, or about weight of 100 to 120 kilogram weight of human body, should be about the right size. Don't forget, this is the information we are giving to the scientific world. This is why they're called the blueprints. We are sharing knowledge with the scientific organizations who come and see. We've seen a huge download and interest by many research centers in this development because the results are fairly rapid. It can be tested. The injection system was not strong enough because of the amount of the gas which was used. So we have abandoned the injection system because of the lack of the material strength, but we're still following the process to see how it goes and how the development goes. I do apologize, I have a very bad cold for the past week or so. So how does this work? How does the GANs, we explain to the scientists who have joined us to understand the process. Go back, if you have not been with us, to the origin of teaching, what we saw with Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez, at the beginning of the blueprint, explained to you something very simple. If you've been around the Keshe Foundation, you understand. Where he had the breast cancer, he placed 2 patches on either side of the breast. Or that's what's recommended. If you have a cancer, with 2 patches on either side where the cancer sits in the middle. There is a ratio difference depending on the doctors what they do between the 2 sides. This is the back, spinal cord, and this is the front. Ratio 2:1 or 3:1 is recommended. Where there is a gradient in the flux flow between the 2 plates with the cancer in between. As is the habit of the plasmatic field, the strongest tries to bring the weakest back to balance, and in that process, they deplete gravitational magnetic field from the tumor. If this understood, and we've seen the results with the breast cancer and other cancers, now what we have shown as the process with the GANs is very dramatically not far different. This is why we brought the teaching of today. This is for the doctors and scientists and general public to understand. When you know, when you understand a knowledge, you don't need to remember, you have to follow. Once you understood the use of the two patches, now becomes very simple. You have the body of the man. We have introduced into this body a new patch. The breast is still there. All the organs are there. The new patch is a total length of from mouth to anus. When you go through consuming plasma GANs, or now that the doctors start research with animal, now going to the humans, this is what's happening now. You have transferred the patches outside into the patches that continues inside. This is the beauty with this technology. This is the beauty of the application of when you use GANs, plasma GANs in digestion. So when you use any kind of material with a plasma, with GANs, now you understand all you need to do is to put the patches where you like. Because the field strength in the body when you consume GANs is not just going through the intestine, it's creation of the new field controlled centrally. If cancer happened to be here, now you see you have a 3-to-1, 10-to-1. And then all you need to do is very simple. Wash the body of the man with CO2. GANs plasma. Now you see the process with the tumor becomes like this. So tumor can be anywhere in the body. With this process, we cover the totality. This is the beauty of it. This is the advancement in technology, understanding the total process. That's why we look and we're asking the world of science to test it. But the beauty with this technology, the way it's applied this way, is that cancer only spreads, in majority of the time, in the body of the man, from neck to the leg, to the hip. And with this process, you cover everything. Ovaries, liver, kidneys, anything you like, the lungs. So now you have a general path. And as we've seen from the reports from Tokyo, is totally non-toxic. So if you wash the body with a combination of liquid plasma GANs of CO2 and zinc oxide, make sure you have no material GANs on it, as many of you have done, now you have made a full structure. You have made a full containment of the whole plasma, and you have to find the right strength that in totality any secondary cancer comes into the same ballgame. You can add patches in a given position for a given cancer to concentrate the plasma field transfer. We teach the scientists to test and try, and we cannot, as we do not do it in what you call different ways than public can understand, because some of the youngsters who listen to these teachings become the doctors of the future of tomorrow. And then they understand how easily they can transfer the knowledge. Some of those who are doctors or medical students, you understand how the game changes. But as we've seen with all the tests shown, the fields created by the GANs can be directed by GANs, and is made of CO2 plus zinc oxide. So not only connects, interacts with the emotion. So this is a cancer position for emotional cancer, psychosomatic condition, which we said is about 95% of the cancers of the human body. This conversion, this approach, as we've seen by the research results from Tokyo, it's very simple. It's non-toxic when you use CO2. Does not leave no traces in any organ. And the beauty of it is, if you look at it, as you consume, it comes out. Does not stay in the body of the man. The due process at this moment by scientists, they think about 20 days is about one time to see the reversal. In some conditions, we see increased enlargement of the tumor in the first 2 or 3 weeks. That seems to be the natural, as the cancer itself tries to defend now its position against what is trying to destroy it. So you might see some inflammation, you might see some increase in the tumor in initial stages, or in the first couple of weeks or so. And as we saw with the results from last week, there are no markers in the blood of cancer after 3 to 5 days with the mice. But they don't see any reduction in the size of the tumor till around about 2nd, 3rd week. Till then, there is no tumor. The process has to be understood. The process has to be explained in full, that doctors understand how the process works. You're dealing with a plasma. You're not dealing with a matter state. Even though you look at the GANs physically in your hand, this is a plasma at a matter state of plasma, not the CO2 as a matter. Is one of the beauties of working in an atmospheric condition where you can transfer the plasmatic energy to represent or manifest itself in near state of the solid matter at a point of observation. We've seen this, and this will be one of the ways that man will help himself in a space. Here we created the GANs. In a space, the man will create a plasmatic GANs level that, as it exists and lives in a space, through inhaling, he delivers enough through his internal organs that continuously the body of the man depletes itself from any plasmatic fields which are not balanced with its own body. So, if you understood this, we are a space program. This is specifically designed for deep space, where you do not, in a way, interact with every virus. You set a standard for your body balance, a plasmatic magnetic field that you inhale that continuously guarantees any virus enters the body as an energy pack, as we explained about the difference between the virus and microbes, then is depleted immediately. It becomes part of the breathing system of the man in the space. The mono-energetic balance will change in strength and in due course, in time, as man stays in deeper space longer and longer, due to this monoatomic strength plasma field of the energy, the body of the man will change quite drastically, because a lot of organs are not needed. We'll find out that the body works totally different and will expand and reduce its size according to the gravitational magnetic field of the environment it has landed in. Cancer is amino acid based strength entity. And this is why any GANs will show at an appropriate strength interaction with and being able to reduce its strength, and then disappearance or amalgamation of the cancer as energy in the rest of the body and dispose of it. Many of you have read literatures on alkaline and acidic. And it's been said many times why alkaline is good for the stomach. It reduces the cancer. Now you might see the reason. Alkaline, by its characteristic, is a gravitational based entity. So in so many ways, when you use and consume alkaline-based materials or water, you continuously create a condition for absorption of surplus energy from the organs of the body of the man. Don't forget, it's the surplus energy which gathers in a given position, which leads to the creation of cancer. When you have a higher density element like iron, which has concentrated in a part of organ, then it, because of its high concentration, it starts clustering like oyster does with the pearl, and then becomes the seed. When you deliver alkaline-based material through the system, which CO2, as you see, and the zinc are part of it, you create an absorption field. And now maybe for the first time you understand why alkalineness leads to reduction of cancer. Because any energy which is not in balance with the rest of the energy stands out and it gets depleted. So now we understand more the reason why alkaline-based water or whatever you do works, and they say it's good for cancer. It is good for anything, because if you can make CO2, which is itself totally alkaline, in the gas plasma, or zinc oxide, one, CO2 connects to the neurosystem. Secondly, as much as we say the zinc oxide is alkaline, zinc oxide, due to its condition, CO2 interacts with the copper side and zinc oxide interacts with the emotion side. So even the emotions come into balance. This is why we recommend the GaNs mixture of zinc oxide and CO2. CO2, that elusive picture we showed last week with the copper that it splits the brain. We'll go into that in the second part of the teaching today. Now explains and brings about why these things are good for the body of the man. When you drink alkaline water, which means you increase the gravitational pull of the water in respect to the water content of the body of man, which is around about more or less 70–80% of it. So you already have a common denominator, and you start depleting what is too much from the cancer cell. One of the reasons the doctors have not understood up to now how some cancers become malignant and some don't become malignant is impurity and totally in how the center links itself to regeneration code, or what you call the DNA. If the cancer has no protein access, it becomes not malignant. Once he has protein access, which means it interacts with the amino acid, magnetic field, the strength, now it delivers its information to the amino acid, which has become part of the cluster, and then the body transfers it as information to the rest of the body. Now we understand why and how. You can, with this technology, make a malignant cancer to non-malignant. The tumor will be there. You will see the tumor most probably for years to come, but it's just another tumor. But if you use the right technology, the right understanding of the process of malignancy and understanding of the CO2 and zinc oxide, then you understand a lot of things. That how you can do it. What we see, and it will be shown in the future by the scientists, non-malignant cancers are those who have not made connection through the amino acid zinc, which are not connected to the emotion.
Excuse me, Mr. Keshe, could we get an adjustment on the cable of your microphone set up there? We're getting quite a bit of noise coming through.
Is that
okay? Like that. That was good noise. Yeah. I'm not sure. You'll have to kind of walk when you move your.
You want me to answer a bit?
Well, yes, exactly.
Okay. No problem. Thank you very much. So now we understand a lot more, because that's why we call this blueprint today. To explain more in detail, in depth, to understand the knowledge and the principle behind what you are doing and what happens. Does not need necessarily to be in a solid state of GaNs. Through breathing systems which deliver the same kind of energy, you can do the same process. But always remember, many of you, I've explained in many teachings before, we are not doctors. We are plasma environmental specialists. We change the environment and the body reacts. We don't go and kill. When you go and destroy infection, you become a doctor, you become a pharmaceutical. When you become a scientist in plasma, our job is change the environment and the condition in the strength of the environment that we get different processes. There is no difference if you take this or you take a plant and you give it the CO2. When you give CO2 to a plant, you change the environment around it. And then to maybe zinc oxide, you feed a little bit of it in, and then it does the same process. There is no difference. You got to understand the totality and the reason for it. Why we see in use of centrifuge and then everything else, because now we have understanding, scientists do understand, then you know what you're dealing with, and you work with the full confidence of the full spectrum of the plasma. The process of changing the environment of the body of the man in the space will not be the knowledge of the medicine man, but the full understanding of the knowledge of the plasma. Because when you deal with the plasma, you go to the next step of the process, and that is you deal with the origin of the creation. You deal with totality of the creation. How it started, you can interact with. How it changes, you can interact with. How it interferes and changes the environment as it needs. All this can be put into one package, into one line, and be used in total. This is what is needed by men of science and space to be able to understand and adapt the whole knowledge at a given position, given condition in deep space. As I said many times, once the energy pack joins itself with a metal in your body, then it links up with the amino acid, then you get a very rapid, severe, aggressive, what you call cancer. This process in the space will be very, very rapid. So if you understand this, you adapt your system in a space according to the environment you go. There will be no cancer. There is no need for cancer. There is no attraction to link into converting viruses in the deep space to cancer. On Earth, we allow the viruses to go through us. We survive it. Some of us kills us. But in space, you will find majority of the cancers will come in through totally random and through energy packs, which they can link to the concentration of a given metal or element and the protein. Now, here on Earth, we fight a virus. In space, we fight a cancer virus. Extremely fast growing, extremely lethal, and if the whole process is not understood, matter of seconds or hours, the life of man comes to an end. Here, it takes you 3 months, 10 years, 2 years, 5 years to see the first sign of cancers. But in deep space, due to the energy pack depletion and delivery, the cancer, if it's not treated the way we have thought, you'll find out will become worse than a virus. What you call cancer viruses in deep space will be one of the biggest menace to humans' life. Because the way you've seen how fast the flu grows in a space, now add the flu with heavy seed of, let's say, iron or copper, and then with amino acid. God help humanity. This is why you have to understand the process. This is why in the space teachings which will come in Ghana in the next 3-4 weeks, starting with the students, they'll be taught the totality of the space medicine. Those of you who join us in a special program, you'll be taught in depth that by the time you finish, if you understood, you become the man of medicines of the space, where the human body will become totally a child's play to handle. We train you to become the experts in a deep space medicine in a matter of weeks. And then you understand where you stand in the total collaboration between the body and the environment. Because as you travel at high speeds in deep space, this condition continuously changes. And you have to pre-plan and understand and be able to interact. The plasma technology in respect to the cancer in the next few months will become totally child's play. You got to understand the principle, you have to understand the technology, you have to understand the characteristic of the structure of the human body, which is in two sections. And as long as you do not understand this, you run into a lot of problems. The physical part and the emotional. And in all processes, when you work in deep space, even with the cancer, one of your biggest nightmares come with something which man has never understood and could not even imagine. Cancers which are emotional and they never show themselves in a physical dimension. They never show themselves in physical dimension. Because in space you deal with the fields and go back to the teachings of what we've done all the time. The body of the man is made of two parts. The brain side, which is mainly the emotional from the gaseous part, and the physical part, which is the matter part. When you manage to change and reduce the size of the physicality according to the point of manifestation, the interaction sits mainly with the emotional, what you call the brain part. The size of the brain of the man, when you reduce the physical side, will reduce to, and not far from, the size of the soul of the man. And then it converts itself to the size and filtering which you need. So what you have is the same interaction of the fields of the space with the brain cells, or what you call the emotional side, because there's hardly any physicality. And then you have to find how you handle this. And they become very fast part of the structure, which the man has to understand in a coming time. This is the transfer of the energy from the soul to physicality. It's the emotional. It's the comprehension part. It's part of how we react with our environment, and the way we react to the environment in our emotional part, now emotional part becomes itself part of the physicality, of the strength of the energy, and becomes part of the cancer cell process. This is why in all processes, when you deal with 95% of the cancers, you have to consider the emotion or the interaction of the zinc. In the future and in other teachings, I was talking to Giovanni this morning. You create the GANs of CO2 or GANs of zinc oxide, then what do you have? You produce top with zinc and copper. Here you produce fields which are equal roughly to carbon in interaction with, in the salt water of NaCl, you absorb some carbon with oxygen in this part, gives you the residual of CO2. But this CO2 is in a calcium strength. Now, take the container, make the GANs of CO2 in 2:1 ratio, change the water this time to salt magnesium. Now you create a new CO2 which has property strength of both the calcium oxide and magnesium oxide. This is, if you find all the salts within the brain of the man, this product here will become the CO2, which you will see immediate interaction with any body of the man when it comes to cancer. Try to go into the next steps of development. I've seen John in Arizona has been starting some tests with this. Don't forget, in the first place, you had physical plates. But now you have changed to the GANs. And the GANs you have produced carries the amino acid strength of NaCl. But now it carries the mixture of the two, because now it cannot be produced unless both salts have been respected and magnetic gravitational field is. Potassium salt, calcium salt. If you repeat this, then you create a CO2 which matches the brain of the man, and you find out works on any system. You have to take the knowledge a step further. It cannot be, and this is one of the reasons, as we said, the teachings from next term in Keshe Foundation will become very interesting, because the teachers have to go into the step of not just the plates. Now you have to create GANs of GANSes, mixture of GANSes and changing the environment. All you are doing, if you understand in full, is this. You are changing the environment here from that to this strength gravitational magnetic field. This is the sodium chloride GANs CO2 strength. This is sodium chloride plus magnesium and the calcium. And then don't forget, when you make these, your connections have to be always nano-coated, and your load has to be plasma capacitors. You cannot go into the matter state as you started with one. And then you find out these become very effective in every aspect of the application. And then your life work just starts, because if now you place these GANSes in the dynamic motors, you just need to stand in between, because the field will cover the entirety, and it covers all the salt in the body. As many of you know who are well educated with alternative ways of changing the structure of the body of the man, in homeopathy there is a very strong belief that the body of the man is made of 12 salts. What they promote and what they teach is that at the end, when you pick up all the remains of the man, in the remains of the man, you'll find these 12 salts. So if you are wise enough and you can copy and accept the totality of the 12 salts, which we are not wise to some of it yet, then you understand you can make the GANs of the human structure, that it fits into every part of the body of the man. This is how, due to existence of these salts, one place knows there's going to be a bone, and one place knows there's going to be a heart tissue, and one place knows there's going to be a kidney tissue. But they all follow the same process of using the amino acid. Because, as I explained on the other side, when you create magnesium salts, these are the conditions. And then, if you try and interact with different strength of magnesium, different strength of calcium, different strength of the components of these salts, you'll find out you have billions of variation in magnetic gravitational field strength, which each one dictates the structure of one cell or one organ of the body of the man. The small variation in the salt, in the strength, in material content, strength of one of the elements allows you to create near or different in the immediate vicinity, and that's why in the body of the man you see the kidneys literally sitting on top of the liver next to all the intestines, and none of them become the other. There is no secret in the world of creation. It's a man's lack of understanding of the condition. This is part of the structure which you have to understand now that we have gone into very advanced cancer research. Those of you as scientists who join, you will understand what is needed. Those of you who are scientists in the field of cancer and the rest, the Keshe Foundation Specific Research Center in Ghana, which is opening very soon. I'm returning back to start the development and the building in the coming days. We invite you to join us at the research center. It'll be headed by our Japanese team. They will head the full research development, and you can join us. You will start seeing from this week on, and most probably in the second part of today, we'll start advertising for job vacancies, or we need help, volunteers who can help in different ways. As scientists, you can spend your holidays or whatever at the research center. Teach us, work with us, and take knowledge back to your countries. Ghana Research Center, Space Center will become the center of excellence for space technology worldwide. We'll repeat the same thing in different dimensions in Arizona. Arizona will become the mechanical side, and we hopefully carry Ghana as part of the theoretical information delivery and technology. Understand, we are not teaching. We had to start with the process of cancer, but we are teaching the cancers of the space. How you can, after a walk or a travel or entering a new environment, you can decontaminate yourself from any kind of cancer, be it emotional, be it physical, on return, or as you are in a new environment. We were talking, and if some of you are parents, you know this very well. The biggest nightmare for the parents is the first week of autumn, when the children go to school. The children in summertime had the best time. They met the cousins. They traveled halfway around the world to have a holiday. But unknowingly, they bring with them every virus that they travel to. They carried it, most probably didn't touch them, but the other friends in the classroom, they touch and they go down like a ton of brick. If you've been in parenthood condition and you send your 2.5, 3-year-old child to school, to the nursery, and the first years of the school, how many weeks after first year she's sick? A lot. Because every time the new term starts, half of the class have been half of the world round traveling, and the other cousins come in and they brought the viruses, and then the party starts. The class reduces to half, and 2/3 don't turn up because each one of them has got different viruses from the other guy. Now, this is the party of the man in a space. They don't bring germs, they bring infections at the virus level. Now we understand how some of us will travel in deep space, will bring these germs, might not affect us because the environment we're in. We come and say hello to the cousin on Earth. He or she might become a fatal disease for her. So the cancer, what you call cancer, as a solid part or entity floating inside the body of the man, becomes virus cancers, and these become menace to human society in deep space if from the beginning, which is a teaching starting here, does not cover. We had to cover. We had to come in as teaching of the cancers because you're all interested, but you understand very soon the cancer man has been so frightened of, becomes nothing once he understands how it can be managed, how it can be understood in its true sense, and then you understand the body of the man is nothing in reality but a tank of mixture of cancers and patterns. Some of it solidify, some of it stay in the matter gans state and become different entities, lung, liver, and everything else. It's important that even our blueprint teachings covers the space technology, that when you see this problem and this problem cancer, you understand, my God, there is no problem here. Once you understand high level of understanding, the lower level becomes common knowledge and can be handled in a very easy way. This is one of the reasons we start these new blueprints. The blueprint starting with the Maghreb system was for the hunger of the man for energy. Now is the hunger of man for survival, not only on this planet, but in the rest of the universe. I've seen some of the first flight system, even this morning, being sent to me. It is absolutely beautiful. A few tuning, and you will see it. Those of you who were in Rome, so the rough structure was shown, the physical system. Now they're loading it, and the loading is beautiful. And once you start doing that, you will understand even our own space systems can become part of the virus cancer to our own body. Even our own scientists who develop these systems have to monitor continuously the field strength of what they are producing. We have a long way to go, but this is the beginning. In the paper, we showed the cancer and antioxidants. Now we understand what oxidants mean and why we need or we drink alkaline water, alkaline materials. In a way, we deplete the energy from the environment, which is not balanced with the rest of the body. This is the beauty of using gas material, because it works with the totality environment, not with one specific. To man, a cancer tumor is a tumor, but in the plasmatic condition of the gans in the body of the man, that tumor is not only physical, it has an emotional attachment to it as well. Because the balance between the emotional and the physical dictates if the entity is needed by the body or not, because in your subconscious, every cell knows if it's a cancer or not in the brain of the man. Don't forget, it's the man who initiated the cancer through his emotion. That is why the CO2s and NGANs work so effectively. There is two parts, even in the structure of the cancer cell itself. Because to be replicated just doesn't grow on its own. It has a control system directly attached to it in the brain of the man, which tells you which part it is attached to and is connected. So even the cell, the cancer cell in the tumor has emotional attachment. And when the body has created it to destroy itself, has a different dimension of strength than the cell next door, which the body has created it to be part of the organ of the life. This is the total understanding of the total knowledge. Not picking one corner and trying to fight. Then you find out the other one comes back again. How many times in chemotherapies and other cancer treatments we've seen cancer coming back? As we said in many teachings, the doctors and the medicine of today deals with physicality, where in reality, the main part, which is the creator of the cancer, which is the emotion, is ignored. It's very much like what we call hand-to-hand fighting with a bunch of what you call kamikaze soldiers. You push them out of one place, they take their time, they group somewhere else, and they come back again. Because you have not sorted out the reasons for their opposition. You have to listen to it, why, and satisfy their need. They become part of you, not enemy of you. And in the present world of medicine, this has not been understood. And that's why we have so much complication, side effects, and everything else. You buy yourself some of the new medicines and just go through the paperwork in the back. It says, very interesting. I can open something very interesting for you to have a look. I was reading one very recently and it made me laugh beyond imagination. Let's say you have a specific headache. whatever you might be. The tablet is good for headache. Bravo, the headache is gone. But read the fine lines. It gives you tens of different side effects. One help if it does, but many damages. And us as human beings take a risk to take this, and then we have to handle the rest. We've seen this in a very recent case with us.
Ja, det var mye på en gang. Det var kreftdelen. Om det er noen av dere som er interessert i diabetes, eller som har noen synspunkter på det.
Jeg synes det høres veldig interessant ut. Jeg
tenkte vi skulle bare, det er 6-7 minutter hvor han snakker litt om det. Så var det jo det der med regenerasjon av hjerneceller og sånn. Vi tar diabetesdelen først altså.
Which is Keith is asking, is the process for diabetes reversal the same as the cancer process?
Yes, it is. We are in a cancer session, yes. We are heavily, we can tell you, as far as we can see, diabetic 1 and 2 are reversible, even at the sore and pre-amputation, even at skin color changes, because Keshe Foundation is heavily involved in diabetic trials in Ghana. We must have, I don't know, a couple of hundred people plus, maybe even more, because it's one of the biggest problems in Ghana. In the next few weeks, we announce the use of the process we have developed in Ghana, and people see the results within 3 to 5 days, start seeing the changes.
Are one of the GANS waters that are being sold in Ghana developed for that?
Yes, I explained to you how we do it. I had a pen in my hand somewhere. The process, pardon, the marker pen, I've been fiddling around, I left it somewhere. Okay, this is nothing to do with cancer. This is we are officially using this, and actually FDA officers and the standard board officers are using it themselves, because more or less 80% of the workers in FDA and the standard board in Ghana are suffering with diabetes. We have a huge number of our colleagues in Atomic are suffering from it. We've had our security officers, the soldiers and the national security officers who protect us as part of the Atomic Commission. One of them even had a sore pre-amputation, and now he's marching on the ground. And we see quite a change. The way we do it, this is the way we have set up. We got to the point that we actually make a carrier bag with the instruction, and we give people They just come, they ask for a bag for a diabetic, or they ask for a bag for high blood pressure and other processes. For diabetic, this is what we use, and it seems to be working with our people, because we've seen total people with have a diabetic, very advanced stage of the color, skin rashes, changes, totally going. We've seen the diabetic sores totally disappearing, and they're back to normal. The sugar level goes all to normal, around about 6.6, 6.3. What we do? We use CH3. We use CO2, and we use zinc oxide. You have to understand, from Keshe Foundation, plasmatic condition, diabetic is a psychosomatic. It has a reason for it. Especially diabetic 1 is birth pressure control. We use morning, lunchtime, and evening. This is all in milliliters. This is what we suggest people do what they like. CH3. We go 7 days, 14 days on each one. First 7 days, 30, 30, 30. After 7 days to 14 days and thereon, 30 and no more. With CO2, we go 30, 30. After 14 days, we carry on with the same process. With zinc oxide, we do the same, about 60, lasting before you sleep. And this process can follow. Benjamin does it slightly different than I do, but we see the same kind of result. Because diabetic is psychosomatic, we use the high dosage of zinc oxide at night, because if you're diabetic, you know when you wake up and you take the measure, you know what the triggers is, and you have a problem. So this solves the problem during. This is a very crucial part of the process. At the beginning, this is the crucial part of the process, because you teach the body to replicate the original sugar. And after 7 days, 14 days, 7 to 14 days, somewhere around there, you stop it, because now you just give it a reminder. You continuously need the CO2 as a line of connection, because there's a lot of correction to be done. And then you use this for the emotional side. We see huge success with this, and what do you call it? The people who use it. But you have to use this, as we see it, 3 to 6 months, that the whole structure of the body changes. A few weeks ago, when I was underground in Atomic.
Ja, det var diabetesdelen. Ganske enkel. Vi ser altså en reduksjon på 50% i løpet av 3 til 5 dager ved bruk av insulin. Så Sånn er det. Skal vi gå til hjernedelen da?
Ja.
If a child suffered brain damage during birth, and so there's
Is it due to lack of oxygen in the birth tunnel?
yes.
That can be changed quite radically. That's not a problem anymore. That is not a problem whatsoever. We have a number of cases. I was discussing that with Giovanni this morning. This is a problem with a lot of parents who have children who, due to the lack of oxygen, have what we call brain damage or some sort of, as we call it, handicap, or they are not matured as the other children do. The process is very simple. It's taken me some 20-30 years to develop it. But nowadays we see the results very effective, very rapidly, very rapidly. I explained to you, I think this work, because I know a lot of parents suffer from this. No, what is it? With the cancer. With the cancer, we should always work on 50%. And then increase it to 80% zinc, 20% CO2. Especially if it's emotionally balanced. What I teach, or what I inspire you to understand at this level today, is understanding of the total creation of man. Understanding the process of the creation, understanding the process of development, understanding how the brain of the man in its structure later on leads to creation of physicality. When a child is born and the oxygen, as they say, is not or was not sufficient, some delay in the process occurs. What happens? You have to understand the process. With me, I teach the process. Then you understand. What happens? As the child passes through the passage of the womb of the mother, somewhere in that process, there is a delay. And, or there is a kind of what we call suffocation, that not enough oxygen reached or cut off oxygen. Life survives for maybe half an hour, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And as you have with hypothermia, when there is a lack of, when it's cold, body shuts down different part of the blood circulation to save everything else. Brain in that position in the birth tunnel goes through the same process. Its priority is to keep the soul of the man in operation and lose as many filtering as possible that life can suspend till there's a possibility of allowing the life to carry on after that stagnation in the birth tunnel. So what it does, if you have hypothermia, the blood circulation gets disconnected. In the birth tunnel, because there is such a high process going on of the conversion from the liquid state of the birth to the air liquid condition of the atmosphere, there is a lot of switching going on. Without that birth tunnel delay, the body will not work. You have to understand, within minutes, within seconds, life, the brain, the operation of the whole body has to change from water life to gaseous life. We are the womb of the mother. We are floating in the ocean of life. And then suddenly the brain has automatically to switch in every way and cell to become adaptable to the gaseous condition. This process has never been understood, but if you understand what it does and how it goes, a lot of switching takes place. And in that process, part of the switching, because it's not sure if it's still going to be in a liquid state or in a gaseous state, the switching doesn't happen. And this is where a lot of you, as you mentioned, you come into what they call lack of oxygen in the birth tunnel and the rest of it. In fact, it's not the lack of oxygen, it's the switching from the two cycle of life. So what happens, the cycle of life in the liquid state brings the maturity of the brain to a point. And then because it doesn't go through the air cycle, it doesn't switch as it's supposed to. So what happened? The brain stays in the liquid state growth, which is limited, and it doesn't go to the high active gaseous condition. So now what you have is what you call the lack of oxygen, but in fact the whole brain is there, you have to switch it. If you do the switching in a later stage in life, the longer it takes. If you do the switching very early stages of life, then you can see a child becoming normal. So what you have to do is to understand this process. If you understood this process, exactly why you have got what you call any deformities, especially in the intellect or in the understanding of the environment, or you call it handicaps, indifferent, or mentally retarded, is because the switching hasn't happened. You're switching to the birth point in the liquid stage is complete. You need to bring that switching in or give it the condition that the growth can carry on. So what you need to do is, as is the blue line around it, you create the same condition as the womb of the mother, but you allow the condition of the air to take place.
Mr. Keshe?
Yes.
Can I interrupt? What if the reason that the lack of oxygen was due to a blood loss, not...
Doesn't matter. It's still the same.
It's still the same.
What happens? Yeah. What happens is that the switching of the brain takes place due to majority of the not switching, or could be panic. It's like you have a stroke, you have a shock. It could be anything. But what it is, you see the brain of the child when you take MRIs, when you see in the scans, in a perfect condition. But you don't see mental development. So what it is, it's very simple. It's one of the simplest ways to give a child back to the parents as a perfect child. Is, once you understand this process now, is to replicate the cycle of life. That's all you need to do. What was happening in the body in that position? What does the body need? It needs calcium. It needs potassium. It needs magnesium. These are all part of the brain structure. It needs what the body was doing in the womb of the mother. I've told you many times, many times, that when you go to a doctor, you say, "Doctor, I think I'm pregnant." He does the test, says, "Congratulations, you're going to be a mother." But next sentence is what? You better take some folic acid to increase the rate of the production of the cell. Folic acid, or what is known as B9, is nuclear atomic agent, which means it has a lot of energy to give to increase the rate of production. If you look at the skull of man, as the calcium pieces drops, go on the medical teaching we've done before, on the health teaching, these calcium, like a snowfall, separate from the skull and fall into the brain, and they gradually become part of the cell of your brain. So to replicate the womb of the mother, you need calcium. To be able to concentrate on the work of it, you need magnesium. You have to have potassium because of the condition of the K4041, which is again a radiation division source. Then, what else you have in the structure of the brain? Zinc. There is no copper in the brain, so you don't need to use copper. Now, you've got to adapt and replicate the same condition. So now you have B9, your folic acid. You need to bring in the order of the creation replication of the acidity and alkalineness and the oil level of the body of the child, which means you have to satisfy his emotion and his physicality. Omega-3, EPA, as much higher than the other part of the folic there. What do you call it? The EPA part of the folic acid, the omega-3 has to be high. You need to create the condition of the comfort connection, CO2. You need to bring energy. When you deal with the brain, zinc is part of the physicality, but as part of the emotional soul, you need zinc oxide.
So to create, does the body naturally create that precipitate of calcium in the skull to replace?
Every day your brain is doing what you're talking to me. Your brain cells continuously showered in by calcium from the upper layers. Your skull is not there just to protect you. If you take your skull away, you don't produce much cells. Calcium is the corner base of the structure of the physicality of the brain of the man.
So does that process that it's...
Am I going to finish? And then you can ask questions.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So now you see the ingredients needed. Don't forget, at the normal rate today, the child eats everything or whatever, so it just enough, maybe even has triggered that switching from the liquid to the gaseous condition, but not enough. So the child is always behind 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So with this, you're trying to speed up the process. To speed up the process, you have to increase the availability of the material, that when the process starts, if there is a need for it, it jumps in. Look at the standard level of recommended dosage of any of these, and don't forget that in the part of the process, the brain has joined the physicality now too. So you have to support the emotional part of the physicality at the same time. That's the ingredient you need. So you're using it normal. It's very simple. To have it, to be able to kick it in, what is recommended is 2 times the average dosage for the first 4 weeks to 6 weeks of these elements.
In the GAN state?
You can use GAN state or you can use the matter state. Omega-3, EPA higher, you can buy off the shelf. Calcium, potassium, magnesium. You can use vegetables which produce this naturally, or organs, and make the GANs of it, or use it as it is. The zinc, the same, and the same B9 folic acid. Then you add the same way 30 mil, 30 mil, 30 mil, 30 mil, 30 and 60. Drinking as a water. These are liquid plasma, not the GANs itself. In these conditions, you don't need to use GANs. You just make the energies available. Then you take it to the next step. You need to create, don't forget, is emotionally, it's the brain part which is damaged. So you need breathing system, 80-20, zinc oxide, CO2, 3 hours a day, preferably most of it just before the sleeping time. You will see the change in the child within the first 7 days and the development of the brain to the total full awareness within 3 to 6 months. And that'll be it. Whatever you achieve in 3 to 6 months is there. At the moment, the trials are going on in Ghana with a number of cases we're looking at. And we have seen the change of the 15-year-old girl to with a mentality of 2 to 3 years old to a mentality of 6 to 10 years old in less than 3 weeks.
Because I'm starting to have some success with just the CO2 and the zinc oxide.
Yes, but
plasma waters.
Without the calcium, potassium, magnesium, you're not creating the brain cells. You're just wiring things up somewhere. You have to allow the cells to be there to take their position.
I was kind of having an issue with the calcium bands, creating it from the chicken bone. I didn't know how I was going to...
If you have a problem with it, just do it with a calcium tablet.
Okay.
But chicken bone is much easier if you're on the seafront. The shells of, what do you call it? Not octopus, what do you call it? Calamaris. They have a bone shell inside, which always lands on the beach.
Squid.
Like a fish. Yeah. Squid. The bone of a squid is one of the best ones. Because it's very, very near to man. It's created in the oceans, and you can make a gas from it. Powder it. It's like this. We have it all over. When you go on the beaches, they are washed. Yeah, the birds eat it. That is good because it's created out of the gas of the fish in a state of the liquid of the sea. Yeah. Near the house is full of them. It always gets washed on the shore. This is what you need. And then after 4 or 6 weeks, you step down to daily dosage. You step down to daily dosage. The recommended dosage, like for omega-3, is about 500 milligram for what they call adults, or children around the age of 10 to 12. So you go to 1,000 milligram. In high temperature time, like summertime, you have to still keep it at every other day because EPA affects quite heavily on some children. You have to read it and consult, and then you understand. But this is primarily, it works.
Ja, det var mye medisinsk i dag da.
Ja, men den var jo interessant, den her da.
Ja, det var greia. Det kan jo relateres til så mye. Det er liksom ikke bare én ting. ganske mange som har de problemene som har blitt omtalt i kveld. Jeg vet ikke, er det noen innspill, noen kommentarer, noen tanker? Er det bare du og jeg er her, da? Nei, men da vet jeg ikke. Det var noe jeg tenkte på selv. Noen kreftfakene er ikke interessant å diskutere.
Hva er det for noe? Få se. Ja, den kan du ta. Ja, den kan du ta. Ja, men kanskje vi bare skal avslutte?
Ja.
Ok, med spørsmål.
Det kan vi gjøre. Ja, men da vil jeg bare takke for fremmøtet til de som kom, og de som kommer etterpå. Og det har vært norsk offentlig undervisning fra Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute den 3. mai 2017. Kreftløsning i bytte for fred, pluss litt om diabetes og litt om hjerneskader og hvordan man kan gjøre noe med det. Host og budbringer har vært Willy Østli, og co-host budbringer Marie Kalve.